Surprisingly, there's not a lot of people can actually reach high rounds in Outbreak. The most average player can reach is usually round 5 to, say, 15. Or mostly 7 being the minimum. But they still seem to have struggled when it comes to their points and their salvage. And of course, they do go down a lot, which makes it even worse. And in a game like Outbreak, your whole main objective is to try to prevent getting downs in the first place. Because I'll explain why that's the case. But for now though, I'm going to go over the basic on how do you reach so high in the rounds, especially that I even made my record of reaching round 35. Which may sound pretty high to a lot of players, and I'm pretty sure many players already surpassed that in the hundreds. Hell, there's even one guy made to the 1,000, which I have no plans on doing that at all. But I'll give you the tips and tricks on basically how to get everything prepared, and basically give you a pretty good warm-up and a good start, and the things that you should do and shouldn't do at the same time. So the first thing, before you start Outbreak, you really want to make, of course, before you start doing your high round temp in Outbreak, you definitely want to try to max everything out with perks, ammo mods, pretty much everything. And the reason you want this is it's gonna help you big time in the game later down the line. With the tier 5 quick revive, with tier 5 stamina up, with tier 5 depth perception, and even some degree, even a tier 5 PhD. Just max everything out as you can. And of course the reason you want these because these will make it very helpful and make the perks more viable. And as for my weapon loadout choices, usually I would go with a shotgun with dead wire. Just mainly deal with the megatons. But I decided to switch it out for a bit last night in favor of a assault rifle or an SMG. It doesn't really matter what AR or SMG you have or a shotgun. You can still use a shotgun if you want. But but for this one, I equip an SMG in this one, which is the MP5, and I equip it with Shatter Blast. So that way I can kill lots of enemies, especially that shreds all their armor off. Especially to the Tempests, which are quite annoying enemies in the game. Especially if you're trying to drive around in vehicles in the game. And of course, if you're going for your, let's say, of course you have Mule Kit with your 3 weapons, your other 2 weapon choices is going to be the Ray Gun and the Electrical Bolt. Now, of course, a Ray Gun for 2 things. It still does a lot of damage. Even if you strike an enemy in the head, of course with the tier 1 Deadshot at least, you can able to still secure a one-shot headshot, although there will be headless for like just a second and then they just kind of die repeatedly. And the dive weapon's pretty good to deal with enemies with large tanky health, especially the Megatons. And it combines pretty well with a Ring of Fire, which is going to be my fuel upgrade because you just do a lot of damage. And doing a lot of damage with one weapon makes it even a blessing. And as for my other equipments of choices and support weapon, let's actually get to the support weapon, being the hand cannon. The reason I picked the hand cannon is for 3 reasons. One is 50 high-grade salvage cheaper than the Death Machine, War Machine, and the Flamethrower, which are also good support weapons as well. There's nothing wrong when using either of those. But to get a little bit more worth of bang for your buck, I pick a little bit more cheaper this way for other two reasons. The second reason for the hand cannon is it does a lot of damage, and plus it can one-shot specials. You saw me right there, I able to one-shot that Disciple one-shot. It also does apply to Tempest, Minix, even the Mangler, as long as you hit their arm cannon. It doesn't work if you hit their like chest level or just anywhere parts of the body that's not the large, well, the large cannon itself. And the third reason is for the Omega helicopters. The hand cannon, alongside with the cruise missile, are by far the best support weapons to basically annihilate the Omega helicopter, and you can able to secure its crate and its content. So most of the high grade salvage that you spend on, which usually is 50 to craft the hand cannon, you actually get your salvage back and even more. So you don't have to worry about it as much. But of course, I will still use the Death Machine, War Machine, and all that once I have basically got everything under control, and plus, if I'm out of ammo for my hand cannon. Now, for my tactical equipment, in the beginning, I usually like to try to keep a Casimir device or a monkey bomb. But in the early stages of the game, you definitely want to use the grapple gun quite a bit. It's pretty handy to have, especially in the retrieve objective. But the reason you want the Casimir devices are essentially the Gersh devices back in like Ascension and Moon. And sure, they are 1,500 more expensive to craft. But of course, with the upgraded of Mule Kick of the Tier 1, you can actually craft 2 of them for the same price, which is actually great. And this is normally, I don't want to waste my... I'm not going to waste 1,500 more to get 2 of them in my disposal if I still have one. I'm still going to end up using my first one still, because you can still have a chance to still reuse the Gersh devices again, thanks to Mule Kick. And of course, my lethal equipment choice is going to be the Semtex. You get 5 of these, and they will just annihilate the normal zombies with just one hit. It still does a lot of damage to the Panzer, since they're weaknesses to explosive. So you basically have everything built to annihilate every type of enemy in the game. You have the hand cannon to annihilate pretty much every special unit. You have the dielectric weapon to deal with the megatons, and you also have Ring of Fire as a backup, also for Odar as well. You have the ray gun and the Semtex for the Panzer Soldats. And now, the more importantly, how do you save up so much of your points and the salvages you have? And of course, every time I look through my map, you can probably see how much salvage I've collected. So of course, if you do ever get a chance to see, if I flip up my map, I can be able to see how much salvage I have. You can pause this video to see how much it is, and you see it's got to be a lot. And how do I keep saving them? It is pretty straightforward. Just don't think of going down at all. Just don't even think about it, don't worry about it, and more importantly, pretty much study the map. It's very important to know the routes and also the spawns of the area where you may get elite or specials. And of course, more importantly, in the early games, you really want to do every world event and of course the main objective as well. And the reason you want to, you get huge bonus points of salvage and points of doing them. However, once you reach like round 10 in Outbreak, the extra bonus of points you get for completing these objectives and world events will be very small. Because I think above round 10, when you complete a main objective, you're only going to reward 1,000 points, which is not a lot. And you can probably see right here, right now. Oh, yeah, you see, it says 1,000. Normally you get like 15,000 points, which will be equivalent of able to pack your weapon for the second time. But no, it's only 1,000 points. And this becomes very crucial because if you go down, especially with a lot of perks you have, you're going to lose 7 perks, which is quite a lot to take. And they do get very expensive each perk you buy. So the best way to play it is, with all this set up, just be on your toes. That's all I can say. That's how I barely go down. Just be on your toes. Don't get bogged out. And if you do have other ideas. Now, of course, you see there was a chest there, but I didn't bother to approach it because there's no aura. I like to call it when I had the depth perception to see stuff through walls. I was able to see that through wall. And that's another thing, too. If you see any of these large salvage pile, pick them up, especially if you have the depth perception perk that gives you more increase of the salvage drop, because you're going to need them a lot, especially if you're going to use a bit of your Gersh devices much more now, especially on certain objectives like secure, defend, or transport. You're going to need it the most. And as for the objectives, well, as for the world events, I should say, exact same rule applied with getting less, getting like 1,000 points of the main objective of completing. You get no bonus. You get no points of completing the world event. So if I open a black chest during like round 30, for example, I won't get that extra bonus points, so your points will be basically slowly come down to a slowing halt. So in order to make a bit more of your points back, you kind of would love to go get a double point and try to use the jump pad and try to collect more of these 500 essence points to create into a 1,000 point essence. So here comes Secure, definitely one of the more challenging objectives. So I'm going to go with a little bit example of how usually I do it. Of course, I try to stay focused on one and trying to secure at least one, have the full capacity before I move to the next one. And of course, the higher you go, you're gonna spawn a lot more elites this time. And I have to say, it's really chaotic, it's very hectic, and honestly, really more fun. And it's so fun, there's no difficulty tweak at all. There's no easy or hard difficulty. It just scales up. So of course the ray gun does help a little bit. I have brainwave thanks to the elemental pop. And now the other rock has been activated. And now to deal with 2 of these, by trying to make a capacity out of it. Now the Panzer Soldiers are actually more easier to deal with and able to dispatch compared to the Megaton, since the Megaton has 2 phases. Its base phase and a split phase. So finally it's maximum, and then it gets a little bit crazy here. So I try to use everything I got here. Using my grenade, my ring of fire, and then I got, of course, gotten biting off from the Mimic. Now I'll try to stay great as possible. And that's another beauty about the hand cannon right there. With Ring of Fire, you do a lot of damage to the Megaton. You're basically able to one-shot the Megaton with this with no problem. So you can able to deal with basically 3 shots to kill the Megaton completely. 1 in its first phase and 2 more shots for each of its split phases.
Fascinating results. As always with science, further research must be undertaken.
Which is pretty crazy.
Head for the beacon, team.
And that's pretty much all I got to say about the tips. And, well, of course, I only got 3 shots with it. But you can see how much damage it does to the chopper. It is fucking crazy. And, of course, you can see the ray gun does small bits of the damage. Which is quite slow. So the hand cannon is always going to be way better to have. Now, another good tip, if you want to make sure what objectives you're going to have next, like, say, you want to use a chopper gunner for secure, you can able to load up. You can able to load up the next region. When you see the beginning, just head approach to a crafting table on that map, and you can able to create the chopper gunner. And throughout the gameplay, I kind of rarely got the chopper gunner. It must be a rare thing now, but it's probably just my luck. But it's kind of really no big deal because the chopper gunner sometimes isn't really viable for every objective because holdout is not really good because it's dark ether interference, and most areas where you have to defend are usually inside a building, which make the chopper gunner completely useless. Like the defend in the Armada. And the best way, just collect a lot of salvage as you can. Especially with Death Perception, you can able to try to loot as much chest as you can. You don't have to loot every region early on because you do gonna get a little bit of burnout from trying to do it with the setup. And also, and each time you start the region, always look at your map and find the best solution, like the vehicles, the jump pads, the portal rifts, anything that helps you get to your main objective much more quickly and more safety without taking so much of your armor away, because armor is very precious in Outbreak. Because without armor, the zombies can able to strike you about in 3 hits, and they mostly could. And most elites, when they melee you, you're mostly gonna die in 1 hit. I'm not sure that's true with the 250 health with Jug. And of course, all it does utilize of the area too. And another thing too is also practice makes perfect, as well basically your knowledge with Outbreak. Because each region and of course the objectives have their own quirks around it. Of course, like I have Sanatorium with Holdout, my main goal is to clear this area here of this building from all the zombies and making sure I secure it so I can actually make some barricades with the vehicles so the zombie can't actually get to me. Saves me some precious seconds and basically guarantee myself an easy, not very very cheap, but a very easy win nonetheless. And there are some objectives like HVT where your more objective is to basically speed through and kill your enemy. And it also depends what type of HVT you have. If you have a Megaton, deal with the electrical bolt, Panzer Soldat, either use a hand cannon or the ray gun, or even a war machine, if you actually have it at your disposal. The Manglers, having the flamethrower or just the ray gun, or even an electric weapon does work as well. And for the Medic, I just choose electrical bolt. It really works wonders. And you can definitely see how much salvage I have collected. It's a damn a lot. But even so, however, I'm not worried about the salvage. I'm kind of worried about more of the points if I keep going down a lot. But, of course, I only went down once because I got a little bit cornered. I actually got put in a corner by a Minic, and unfortunately, the other zombie got me as I was doing the black chest in the Armada. But as long as you basically keep your head up, have everything set up, and also not to worry as much at all. And of course, another thing to worry about when it comes to doing the vehicle strat with holdouts, make sure you eliminate the Tempest first, because they will ruin your day with your vehicles in trying to set it up. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say. Now, now, of course, as for the other objectives, which I didn't show much on the gameplay, when it comes to doing, like, transport, I just basically rushed to it and watched the area and basically used my Kaismir device in the center of the truck. Especially when you had to deal with all the enemies like the Panzers, the Megatons, and the Specials. And I think an escort is actually a breeze because there's no infinite spawn of enemies too. So that makes things a lot more easier. Oh, and another thing, you really don't need to do what I'm doing right now, and that is just using the vehicle to block the window barricade. All you need to do is have a four-seated vehicle, drive it up to the very top of the stairs, and just blow it up. That should create a barricade that the zombies can't really get to you. And of course, that strat works with any map that has the vehicle that you can put inside, and basically the spot you know where you're going to be holding out. So of course, going to have the vehicle again. And then the next objective is the Fen. The Fen is almost similar to Holdout, except for you're not going to be teleported away from the area. However, there are a few ways you can also prevent the zombies to... You can create a few choke points in other areas where the zombies can't get to you. Like, if you do the building here in Sanatorium, where you had to do to defend, I actually use a cargo truck, basically drive right into the main entrance, which is blocked off, and basically shoot with a ray gun or explosives to destroy it. And the zombies can't actually come inside. And it's great about it too, because even the Megaton spawns in the front, but due to the a debris in their way, their AI pathfinding gets stuck, and they're basically stuck there permanently, as long as you actually made them get a clear line of sight to you. So they almost work similar to the AIs in Payday 2, especially if you're doing the drill trick, like in the Big Bank or Framing Frame Day 3. And I'm doing the same thing right here right now, just destroy the vehicle. And another good tip too, when it comes to destroying vehicles, the vehicle's explosion can also one-hit the Megatons, and that's even in their split form as well. So it's also advisable if you have a motorcycle and there's a Megaton there, it's kind of advised to actually destroy the vehicle next to the Megaton, or even the Panzer, pretty much any enemy in the game, with the exception of Oldar, can die to the explosion of the vehicle. Now, as for the retrieve objective, you definitely want to have a vehicle for this one to speed through. But if you don't have any Gerst devices or Kaismir devices, you can use a grapple gun, which helps with the retrieve mission so much. What you want to do is, of course, once you pick it up of the canister, you can able to use the grapple gun to get on top of the buildings or a few areas that's to be able to speed things up in the process. And you can also jump while you're using the grapple in the air, so you can get a little bit of a momentum going. And of course, I also use the Kaismir devices when there's a lot of zombies basically defending these, the canisters. So that's one of the few areas where I would use the Kaismir devices the most. Mostly most of the Strauss mission, where to be secure, transport, retrieve, a little bit in the defend, but not really much else in the other outside. For eliminate, for holdout, I mean, I might use it for holdout if I get on the area where I can't really blockade with a vehicle, like collateral, for example. I can't do that because all the window barricades is in the second floor, and there's no way for my vehicle to get on top of it. And of course, you can see right now I have all of them stuck there again, which is actually hilarious. So you can do this in, of course, Golova, Duga, Ruka. Let's see. You can probably do an Alpine, but there's like what 6 windows. You probably need a lot of snowmobiles. But one thing you have to be careful with the explosion of the vehicles. They do love to do a little jump animation, like the little explosion when they do the jump. So they may land on a spot where you don't want it to be, which actually makes the effort kind of gone to waste. But yeah, that's gotta be it for my my tips and tricks for Outbreak. As long you just don't thinking of going down at all. Just play as you usually do. Try to go for every world event as you can. As long as you have your maxed out gun. And another good tip is sometimes try to go for the black chest event where you desperately need it. Especially if you have a ray gun, it's one of the easiest world events that you can complete. Especially with the ray gun, when you do a lot of damage to the orb, it's nothing. And of course, with the when you shoot the final orb, the blast of the chest will be able to kill any zombie that's close by to it. So this makes things a lot more easier. But yeah, that's gonna be my tips and tricks for the Outbreak, and see how and my high rounds go. I hope you find these tips to be very useful, and thank you for watching, everyone. If you find this tip to be very useful, give it a like, comment, and subscribe for more engaging content. Until then, farewell, and have a wonderful day, everyone.